blessed. As usual, my selfishness felt unfettered as I struggled to celebrate the gain of another while staring deeply into my own loss. Most days I could approach my pain measured, but when the eruption of holiness in another's womb reminded me of my not yet, I buckled. "I know how you must feel," she said. "When we didn't get pregnant that first month, I got really nervous that something was wrong. I went under to that murky place where no human can retrieve me." Her sentiment was beautiful. She was reaching across the chasm between her new reality and the cliff to which I'd been relegated. She leaned. She tried. But that was just it. She had to try to understand. The fact that her experience made it impossible for her to connect with me made her healing words wounding. I had entered into a land where very few could know, intimately, the pain of time bearing down on me. Her words were the least of the misunderstandings I'd experienced in the years that my room remained empty, and the emotional layers of my life peeled like old paint. It was clear that she wanted to enter my story. She attempted to reach me, something beyond so many others who came before and after her, but my story itself made me unreachable. 1 month? What I wouldn't have given to know the walls of this purgatory for only 1 month. Instead, I studied those walls for years, known their cracks, felt their coldness. I thought back to the first month. What did that feel like? Was I nervous, afraid? Did I have any anxiety about the pregnancy test to come? No, after 1 month, I was still vibrant with expectancy. In fact, I looked back on that time as my glory days. I didn't know then I'd log years in this waiting room. I didn't know then that the women alongside me, all waiting their turn to bear glory, would have their numbers called while I waited still. Over time, some people entered my waiting room with kid gloves, and others barged in, uninvited, providing commentary on those parts of me that were weakest. Each time as they came and went, I moved from, do they even know what it's like to have this kind of pain? To, do they even really know me? And then, does anyone even know me? The world calls it loneliness. At the time, I had trouble labeling it anything other than pain. It just hurt. But God allowed it, maybe even invited it. Could it be these are my glory days? College had witnessed Nate's first growth spurt. By what can be attributed only to the hand of God, Nate landed himself amid a group of boys, ready to be men, who had an early understanding that no part of knowing God is passive. They had a zest for life and for Him and for a life in Him. They wrestled in the basement of a college house made into bullpen, pushed the furniture back, and let the floor absorb their sweat as they sought to strong-arm one another. The walls heard late-night conversations about God and impact and a life lived alive. They played hard and loved Him and one another hard. Though I came into the picture after the caps and gowns had been boxed, I witnessed their dreams take wing in their 20s. By that point, many of them wore rings of allegiance to women who gave them not only permission to pursue that flight of life in God, but access to it. These men and their wives followed God to the run-down parts of a Virginia city and planted a stake there that said, "He loves in unexpected ways." They bought houses for pennies and relinquished their Wall Street opportunities for back-alley living. They loved those whom many deemed to be unlovable. They reached the unreached with a life, not just a message. They lived the Sermon on the Mount. They did it. They poured their lives into a cup of cold water for the poor. During those years of transition and sacrifice for them, Nate and I simply watched. I wrestled with guilt over not joining this band of brothers on their venture. For so long, I had understood life as impact for God's kingdom. But as Nate and I struggled in the shadows of our fledgling marriage, I realized I had little to give.